Hi, me again, Carol with SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions. Today in our session, we are going to talk about communication. So last time we talked about creativity and critical thinking. Now we're going to move on to the very important topic of communication. But first, before we get started, I'm going to ask everybody, play along, close your eyes. Come on now. Close your eyes. I want you to picture you walking into a classroom and seeing two teachers interacting. How do they interact with each other? What's their posture like? What do they look like? How are they dressed? Now imagine you walk into another scenario. Let's say there's a football game and you see those two teachers interacting. What do they look like at the football game? Or what do they look like at a restaurant? You walk into a restaurant and see them there. How are they dressed? How are they interacting? What is your posture like? What is their posture like? So in the first example, they were more professional maybe, dressed differently. They might have been standing up more. In the second one, maybe their posture was more relaxed. They were more casual. So this is communication. Not just verbal, but body language and everything else is how we communicate with each other. I like to say we should listen twice as much as we speak. We were given 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Now that poster's communicating with me. It's saying, I don't want to be up here. Okay, all right, so communication. So it takes a conscious effort to be able to make sure, especially at work, that you are communicating positively. And if I were there live in the classroom, I'd be willing to bet I'd see some people maybe with their heads down or slouching in their chairs. And you know, that communicates with me as well. Maybe you're disinterested. Maybe you're just tired. But all those forms of body language communicate too. All right, so we want to move on right away. If teachers would please, you hand out the conflict management fact sheet to each student. You can pause here and make sure that every student has one of these conflict management sheets. Okay, so everybody has a conflict management fact sheet. Normally I'd have you read these out loud, but I'm going to go through them real quick. Number 1, carefully choose your words, both in writing and speaking, especially in a business environment. Avoid slang and casual terms. Stay professional, number 2, in your nonverbal communication. We talked about that. That means facial expressions and body language. Eye contact is super important. Number 3, use active listening. Don't just listen and try to think about the next thing you want to say. Be listening to understand and be able to respond to what they're saying. Number 4, when communicating and writing, remember to reread before you hit send. Number 5, stay positive and calm. And number 6, avoid multitasking. Multitasking is a myth. I would especially say, I'm going to give a plug. Multitasking, the worst form of multitasking, is texting and driving. You cannot drive and be on your phone at the same time, so just don't do it. Just drive. All right, so we're going to do an activity today where we're going to talk about conflict management. But before we get there, I have to ask, what is conflict management? I'd be willing to bet if I asked you all if you've ever been in a work environment and you've had a conflict with a fellow coworker or a boss, many of you would raise your hands. So how you handle that displays how professional you are. So it's important that you can handle that in as positive a manner as possible. So we're going to talk about how that works. So conflict occurs in life too. This is something, again, you can apply in your school day with friends, with people you don't really like in school. You want to be able to deal with conflict positively. So, conflict management fact sheet. Everybody open up to the middle part of this. And you're going to see what are some good conflict management and what are some poor conflict management. So keep these in mind as you go through the activity now with your teacher. So teacher, this is the time you put me on pause and you can do the activity with the students. Okay. All right, so you did your activity. We are back. Did you notice that, what did you notice in the difference between those who displayed good conflict management and those who displayed bad conflict management? Were there any things that you thought, oh, I do that very differently? And imagine how over time these differences could enhance or erode the atmosphere and productivity in a business. So I want to remind you that employers report that new workers lack good workplace communication skills. If you start practicing these skills now, you will definitely have an edge when competing for jobs in the future. So next time, we are going to be talking about collaboration, my favorite activity of all.